my name is Ibukun. Like you said, intern, what? Studied computer science. Graduated when some years ago, I guess. Um, Multiple internships. Now I'm working full time. Software engineer. Met up what some weeks ago at Bloomberg.
Yeah, at
Uh,
Bloomberg.
yeah. Yeah. Then here to talk about some computer science stuff.
Yes. So thank you for joining this live session. So I see that you have some couple of experience and would love to learn from you for real. Because as a software engineer, we need to learn how to grow. We need to learn how to develop ourselves. We need to learn we need to learn, especially in this fast pace of artificial intelligence, how can we develop ourselves in software before we go deeper so that we can maximize our time. So I would love to start with the first question. So for everyone watching us, please kindly, there will be a period where you can ask your question. And so we would appreciate you all, right? We appreciate you all to kindly wait till we are able to address the most important things. All questions are important. Though. So the first question I have is, what strategies do you use to stay updated with the latest technologies and trends in software engineering? Because
Can,
initially we've already discussed
can you give me
actually
one
career.
second?
Okay,
I need to get some light into this room.
okay, that works. So initially, the reason why we are starting with a very high level questions, right? The reason why we are starting a very high level question is because we've
Mhm.
discussed in the past what's how to start a career in software engineering. So if you want to learn how to start a career in software engineering, kindly check our previous videos. And so which means that on this call we are going to be talking about software engineering, and how we can advance in that space. Um, so the question that we have right now is that what strategies do you have so what strategies do you use to stay updated with the latest technologies and trend in software engineering?
Oh, for me, I would say it's mostly YouTube, to be honest. Um, because I mean, YouTube there's a lot of content, both good and useless content. I watch everything. Um, yeah, and then what's it called? Engineering blogs for companies. So like usually most big tech companies have these blogs that they publish articles on. They talk about, how they build, something, their, let's say some internal tool or some infrastructure system that they, I don't know, built internally. So they just talk about those on their blog. So I read that from time to time, actually quite a lot. Some people also publish research papers on the stuff they build. I mean, sometimes if I have time, I read those as well. It just helps you to understand like the in-depth, way this, guys engineer the system, which is pretty interesting to me, right? So yeah, YouTube, blogs, papers. I don't know any other place that people publish engineering talk on. Um, yeah. Also, I talk to people that we software engineers together. Someone is talking about, oh yeah, I just learned this thing, and then we all learn together, right? So yeah, internet, talk to people and stuff. Yeah.
So, which is your favorite? Like, which among this is your favorite that helps you to stay updated?
Um, I would say probably engineering blogs because they're not talking about abstract work, right? They're talking about something that they actually build that works for them, and this is something you can maybe replicate. Uh, and usually they have code to go with it as well. Like some of them, they have open source technologies that they write about, so something you can actually go in there and read about. You can also read the code. So yeah, that's probably my favorite because of those reasons.
Wow, thank you so much for that. So, example of the blog could include this Medium, right? Medium. Do you have any
Uh,
other one?
well, when I say blog, I mean some companies do publish on Medium, but I would say specifically go to the company's blog themselves.
Okay.
Like for example, like Netflix, they have like an engineering blog. Facebook, they have an engineering blog. Google has an engineering blog. So it's actually published directly by engineers that work at those companies. I don't know if I have URLs, but I guess I can send them later. But the specific blogs that people
Publish.
publish,
Right.
yeah.
Oh wow, thank you so
Uh,
much for this. Like, this is me knowing for the first time that companies actually publish
yeah.
blogs. I myself don't know. I myself don't. So now I can go ahead and look for um Netflix blogs, right? See what
Mm,
they've done. Wow, this is very good. This is going to be the most important way of staying relevant in your field because this is the actual work of these professionals, publishing what they've done.
mhm.
This is amazing. So thank you very much for this. So let's move to the next question. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure. That's, that's it is.
So how important is continuous learning for long-term career success in software engineering? How important is it for continuous learning for long-term career success in software engineering? And what resources have been the most beneficial to you? I think I've asked that question, but so let's ask this one. How important is continuous learning for long-term success is in computer engineering? How important is it?
Continuous learning. I mean, like to be honest, like engineering, software engineering specifically, changes a lot every day. Like, I don't know how many JavaScript frameworks have been released this year. Probably like millions of them, right? So I think, as a software engineer, like one of the most important things to you is being able to, like one of the biggest metrics that, is relevant to you as a software engineer, I would say is how much you know, and not just how much you know and knowledge, but how much you know and you can apply to what you work on, right? So it's one thing to know something, it's one thing to be able to use it, and it's one thing to know useless stuff, right? So yeah, I would say long term career success in software engineering, you need to be able to learn uh, continuously. Like, I mean, at this point, I'm just repeating the question, but you get what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's it's if you're not learning, then you're gonna get left behind real quick, especially in this field, right? So, yeah, very important. Maybe one of the most important things, aside learning the fundamentals. But yeah, definitely.
Okay.
What was the second half of the question again?
So the second half of the question is, what resources have been the most beneficial to you?
Oh, yeah,
Beneficial for you?
we already answered that question, right? Blogs, YouTube, maybe YouTube actually blogs. Yeah, one of those two.
YouTube and blog.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say blogs is because they are specific. They actually publish what they've
Mm-hmm.
done so far,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like what they are doing, real stuff. And YouTube is good, but there are a lot of distractions, right?
Yeah, yeah. As long as you learn to sift through the again useless stuff, you should be able to learn something. In, yeah.
So I want to ask a question outside of this. Um, starting a career in software engineering, just for those people looking towards starting, even though we've addressed this question in our past video for those starting a career in software engineering. So, what advice will you give to somebody just starting?
So people who are just starting their career, I would say don't worry too much about the shiny stuff. Just learn the fundamentals and learn them well because a lot of things that we do as software engineers is we apply the fundamentals to everything we do, right? Fundamentals of data structures, algorithms, networking, things like that, right?
Yeah.
You want to know to an extent what you're doing. You're not just shadow boxing. You actually understand what you're doing. Um, I would say that's one of the most important things. Like, career growth is going to come, fairly easily when you understand these things, right? Like, also, like I would say, if you're just starting out, you want to, you know, put yourself into more projects or put yourself out there, work on more things, right? The more you work on things, the more you learn. I see a lot of people fall into the trap of just watching videos, reading and reading, and you're not actually applying any of these things. And
Applying.
before you know it, you're not learning anything, right? So
Yeah.
what you want to do is actually work on stuff and make sure you're building stuff, build cool stuff, and you learn. Yeah, it's pretty much
Wow. So it's more of practical, learn and practice.
absolutely.
Wow. So because you can't stop learning. There's always one thing to learn.
Hmm.
Okay, so this takes me to the next question. Can you share an example of a time when learning a new skill or technology helped you advance your career? So how did you get into this Meta, get into Meta two times, and then also get into Bloomberg? These are big tech organizations, right? So can you share a time when learning a new skill or technology helped you to advance your career in this tech company? So how?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a specific example for you, to be honest. But um, I would say like especially as someone that was just starting out, with internship, right? There in some interviews, right? Like I don't know, where was I? Sophomore, junior, I don't know. There's some interviews that like they ask questions about like just like simple like system design questions, not like system design, but like some simple system design ish questions. I remember when I was doing interviews then, like there are some of the questions that they don't really expect much from you as as a sophomore or something. But like me learning some of those things then, made an impression, I would say, on my interviewers. Um, I don't have a specific example, to be honest, but I think I remember one specifically. That was as simple as regular expressions, right? Um, Most times I don't think they teach you regular expressions in school until like junior year also. But I don't know, what was I, sophomore then, and doing interviews, and then they asking the question, I was like, oh yeah, just throw a regular expression, answer the question, and it works, right? And then it was like, oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, all right, just use it. And interview that was supposed to take like a long time ended pretty quickly. So those kind of things, like you get to apply, things that you learn. Again, like the more you learn, the more you know, the more you know and use, the more it stays with you, right?
Yeah.
So I guess I gave you a specific example, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
just easier to communicate with people when you learn things and you use those things, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah. Like you said something about regular expression, like you having to like go learn something and learn how to apply it, and that is something that um you learning what is not actually being taught in school, going outside of the field, like your courses, and going for it, like going outside the courses and learning it. I think that's one of the important things that we need to understand in this fast-paced technology. Then, okay, so this takes us to the next question. Um, okay, I have a question outside of this. So the question I have is that you said we should learn fundamentals, right? So
Hmm.
what are the fundamental skills to you? What are the fundamental skills that we need to learn, and where can we get these skills from?
What are the fundamentals and where do you get to learn them? That's the
Yeah.
question. Uh, Fundamentals, I would say, again, like I mentioned, data structures, algorithms. Um, Emphasis on the data structures part. And when I say algorithms, I don't mean esoteric algorithms like, I don't know, Kurasa use algorithm, or I don't know how Kurasic, I don't know. But what I mean is like just simple, okay, this is an array, this is an hash map. how does it work, right? What because some of these things, right, it's not just you're not just learning them for the data structures or algorithms. You're learning them for things that you're going to solve in the future, right? In the future, you might be facing a problem that is pretty much just the same thing as what people solved using an hash map or something like that, right? And you're like, okay, this looks very familiar. I can use, I don't know, hashing or something to solve this problem, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So data structures, algorithms, networking is another thing that I would say, just like basics of protocols, right? HTTP protocol, TCP, how does it work? You might not need this in like your daily work, but it's good to know some of these things. How do these things work? Fundamentals from that. Yeah, I don't want to go like too far to the other end
So
of the
for like,
spectrum.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, just some of these things are good to learn. I can't think of,
more than that.
yeah, if I do think of something else, I'm going to say it later, but not right now.
Yeah. So it's more of data structure and algorithm and how to apply them.
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
yeah. So because we are going, it's something that we need in our day-to-day um program, right?
Hmm.
So another thing I have is that what role do certifications or boot camps or online courses play in career development as a software engineer? So do you have any certification or boot camps or online courses? Are they important? So especially certification, you know, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm probably the wrong person to ask about this actually, because I don't know what was the last certification I did. I did in school, and that was because I needed it for a grade. For me, it's just a lot more important to learn than to actually get a certificate for what I'm trying to learn, right?
Mhm.
And I don't know, like if your job requires a certificate or certification, then yeah, if you're trying to get a job and they say, oh, you have this or you have a certification, go do a certification and get a certificate. But even certifications are easier to get when you actually understand what you're doing, right? So
Yeah,
exactly, if you think you're gonna need it, I think you should get it. If you don't think so, there's none.
no
In my
need.
opinion, there's no use getting because you can always get it right. You can always take a certification exam and get the certificate. But if you do need it, because software engineering, right, most times there's two things. When you apply for a role, you do, you take lead code questions, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then you take system design questions. Those two. No one, except, passing the resume stage, right? Which most times you pass with your experience and, I don't know, if you're early in your career, maybe your internship experience and things you've worked on,
mhm,
projects, right?
mhm.
Most companies won't ask you, except it's for a specialized role. Let's say you're applying to some cloud computing something role, and then they're like, oh, it's certification in AWS, something is a plus,
Yeah,
right?
it's
In
needed.
that case, to get past resume screening, just go do the certification, right? But if you don't need it, I don't see the point in, getting the certification.
Definitely. So subscription is good based on the requirements of the, but not like major in software engineering because it's more of like what you can do and your understanding of data structure and algorithm. And okay, but for some other roles like cloud computing, like it may be required because that is probably the platform they are using, or probably in AI or in machine learning or data science, where there is where organizations sometimes make use of some tools like Power BI, and they want to prepare somebody they already is very good in using such platform, or Azure and stuff like that. Yes, so software engineering is more about building, being real, being I'm not saying it's more about it's less of the platform. It's more about you being able to, apply what you've learned to solve a problem.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah, and yeah. If role specific things you can get certification for, absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for this. How do you balance learning new skills with meeting the demands of your current project? Like, should in case that you have a project that is beyond your level of skills, like your expertise, how do you do that? Because This is you now working with real world projects. This is you working with project that like you've gotten the job. Hey, thank God, hallelujah. So now you have faced with a job that is beyond your skills. So how do you handle such things?
If you're faced with like a project that's beyond what you know, that's the question.
Yes. So how do you balance learning new skills with meeting the demand of your current project?
Okay. So it seems like two questions in one. So I guess I'm gonna answer the first one. So you have a project you're working on, you don't understand what you're doing. I think you you have colleagues, you have managers, you have people around you. Let's say you don't understand because of the technical content, or you don't understand it because of the what domain knowledge involved. Because sometimes you're given something and then like there's some domain knowledge or something that people at the company kind of know already that you don't know. In that case, it's best that you talk to people around you like, oh, people, I don't understand what's going on here, like I'm so confused, right? You're talking to your teammates because most times at companies no one is evaluating you like, oh, you did this alone, that's why you get. I mean, yeah, like there's some component to that, right? But like most times it's teamwork, right? You're working as a team, so you want to talk to people around you, or people, I don't understand this thing, what's going on, help me. I'm lost. And then people actually are willing to help most times. The other way or the other thing that could happen is, oh, there's this technology that you're supposed to work with. Let's say maybe there's some esoteric database. Let's say some graph database or something, and you don't know, you've never worked with a graph database, right? In that case, again, continuous learning, right? You want to first of all start, right?
Mhm.
If you get something that you don't know how to work on, I would say first of all start with what you can work on, right? Like what
Okay.
parts of it can you want to start chipping away at the problem, right? And then as you go on, you begin to understand that okay, it's not because I cannot understand these things just because I've not gotten to see this concept before, right? And what do you do in that case? You watch it or read some blog or something, right? So it's
Yeah.
always most times it's like that. It's just because you've not seen that concept before, and then when you start watching two, three, four, five, six videos, like you start to have a good understanding of what you're working with, right? And if you still don't, I would say still talk to people around you that seem to understand the concept better, right? And then second one is what? How do you balance?
Yeah. How do
Uh,
you balance it?
yeah, working on a project and learning, right?
Yeah.
You want to prioritize. You want to, you know,
Prioritize.
yeah, you want to prioritize what's most important to you, right? There's a term in line, it's called ruthless prioritization. Like make a list. I mean, you don't even need to make a list. Just know what are the most important things to me and get rid of things that are not important ruthlessly. Um, and then, at the end of the day, what the things that are most important, there wouldn't be like a lot of things, right? Oh, I want to learn this, I want to learn that. Learn what's most important right now,
Yeah.
preferably if it's related to your project, right? If it's not
Mm.
related and you still want to learn, you can still learn, but make sure you're working on the thing you're working on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, wow. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
this. So, if I, yeah, to summarize this, which means that you must learn the things that are important to the project. Because the truth is that by the time we are keeping the project, we tend to be like, oh, I need to know this, I need to know this. So it is important for us to learn what is important in the project and for the project. And also, you talk about the teamwork, which is very, very important. You said reach out to the team. You aren't going to get credit. You aren't going to get credit for working alone. Nobody's evaluating your work. It's all about getting it done, getting the job done. So reach out to teams, right? Reach out to teams, reach out to your colleagues. And if it's domain knowledge or domain problem, you reach out to people in that space and people that have done it before. Then look for resources, to help you achieve that. So two key things I picked up. the team, right? So the question is, how do you balance learning new skills with demands of your current project? Number one, reach out to your colleagues, reach out to your manager, reach out to people around you. Secondly, work in teams. You don't get credit for working in isolation. And thirdly, we talk about learning what is important for the project. So you learn tailored to the project. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. So now the next question. So we'll be running up, and so for anyone that asks questions, so please kindly, you can start to pull up your questions so we can address that. So the question I have is that in what ways can mentorship or networking contribute to continuous learning and career growth in software engineering? Like I was able to network with you and learn more about you and Bloomberg, and yeah, this may bring me up on my live show. Like this is person that is very very good. Come over and come and speak on this so that I can learn and people can also learn. So the question now is that I just stated one example, right, or the benefits of networking. So I want you to touch down on mentorship. In what ways can mentorship, contribute to your continuous learning and growth in software engineering?
Uh, yeah. Like you said, the more people you meet that know stuff, the more you learn, right?
Mm,
And the more you interact with people that know stuff, the more you learn from them. It's as simple as that, right? Mentorship, networking, especially even sometimes, it's not even just technical, right? Sometimes it's about like interacting with people, right? Like someone is, I don't know, like you're talking to someone and they're telling you about soft skills, they're telling you about oh, this is how you, I don't know, just non-technical stuff even, right? Like
mhm.
growth as a company, growth in general as something, yeah, non-technical growth, technical growth, things like that. You learn the most random stuff from people when you talk to them, right? And most companies also have like spaces, like they have hierarchies. I don't know if you heard of that, but like it's pretty much just like professional groups of people. You can have like black people in whatever, like this group of people, and you can learn from people that are from the same background as you are, right? And these people have gone ahead of you. They've learned a lot, and there's no point in learning all that stuff by yourself.
Yeah,
So
there's no
yeah.
point. Sorry for cutting. There's no point to learning,
Hmm.
starting from the scratch. So that is one of the like try to learn to climb on people's shoulders, right? So that's one of the importance of mentorship. Like, let me start from where you are,
Yeah.
you know, which is good.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah. Yeah. So pretty much what I have to say about that.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I also said something that I think is very, very important. Um, you said you can also learn random things from people, random things, things that are even less technical, which is something like soft skills that you need also on your job. So
Mhm.
any other thing you want, because I know I caught you in sometimes. So anything you wanted to add?
I mean, for this question in particular, I would say yeah, that's pretty much it. Like networking, mentorship, you have to talk to people. You're not Nobody's going to evaluate you on oh, you didn't talk to anyone. That's good. In fact, some people are going to say, oh, you're supposed to collaborate, right? Most companies, when they're evaluating you, was like even interviewing you, right? They want you to show that you are a collaborator, right?
Yeah, you
Which is very
collaborator.
important. Yeah. Uh, yeah.
Thank
Pretty much it.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So the next question is for anyone that has questions, please kindly send in your question before we round up today's session. We are just few minutes to the end of this live show. The question I have is that what are the best practices for setting career development and goals? In fast-paced field of software engineering, what are the practices? How are you developing yourself? Because it's not easy for you to just start um from it's not easy for you to be I won't say jumping to be. It's, I know there are some steps, there are some things that you have put in place for yourself. So, we want to hear from you. What are the best practices for your career development in this software engineering? What are the things you've done for yourself? What are the goals that you have set aside for yourself in this field?
Yeah. Um, um, Career development wise, right? Like I feel
Yeah.
like it's unique to each person, right? Because,
Mm.
okay, I'm going to explain this way.
Yeah.
Some people they want to become generalists, right? They want to, have a wide, you know,
Cool.
overview of everything. I want to learn JavaScript, I want to learn Java, I want to, learn, whatever it is that people are doing in this space, right? And some people, and some of those people, they maybe eventually want to become managers or directors of
Managers.
or things
Yeah.
like that, right? And some people, they want to be, ICs, like individual contributors. They want to be very good at, one thing, or maybe even multiple things, but they want to just write code or work on technical stuff always, right? Like for the rest of their career, which each path, everyone knows why they're picking each path, right? So for me, it's about knowing what I want
Mhm.
um to uh in terms of career growth, like what do I want to what do I want my career to look like in the next 5, 10 years? Uh, you know, what space do I want to be working in? Some people for them it's AI. I know like you're a more on AI
Yeah,
ML.
more of AI. Yeah, more of
Yeah,
AI and ML.
exactly. For me, like it's more infra based work. I don't like working that much on products like user facing products. I want to work on infrastructure. So each person needs to decide, oh, what am I working on? And then when you decide what you want to learn or where you want to be, you want to know, okay, what are the things that people in, where I want to be, like, what do they know? Like, what are they working on? What does their day to day look like? Am I, close to that in any way? What do I do to get close to that? What does
Yeah.
work in that place look like? So those kind of things, right? You want to understand those things.
Mhm.
What does their job description look like? And from there, like you begin to know, okay, what should I be working towards and things like that, right? So for me it's just
Yeah.
that, right?
So I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So for you now, what are the set goals for yourself? What did you set? What are the career goals that you set for yourself? Like you said, you like to work at the infrastructure side.
Mm-hmm.
So what? So you share us like your own experience on how you're able to like develop your own career goals in that field?
So I mean, for me, right, like I said, I want to work on infra stuff,
Yeah.
right? And it's all depending on where I work, what they're working at, right?
Yeah.
And where I want to work, I guess. Um, Specifically, right? Well, I don't know. Like, I don't think I wrote down anywhere that this is
Wow.
what I want, stuff like that. I generally don't write things like that down because
Okay.
in my head I'm like, okay, yeah, like this person is doing this thing. Like there are people at my company that are like, in a particular space. I'm like, okay, yeah, like that's pretty cool. Like, staff engineers and things like that. What are they working on? They work, they're working with different teams, like trying to look into their infrastructure and saying, okay, like what are they working on? How good is how good are the design decisions they've made, those kind of things. That's kind of where I want to be in the future, which is kind of like, okay, like I'm like saying, okay, I'm not just contributing directly to one project, I'm contributing to multiple projects, right? Okay,
Multiple
like
projects.
yeah, across different teams, right? What are these people doing, what are they working on?
Hmm.
And like i I would have understanding of what just different things I'm working on, and looking into the infra and things like that, right? It's kind of like a cross-cutting role. Is I think that's a pretty interesting role, and there's people that are doing that, and they seem to be doing it pretty well. Let's say.
Okay, so this is what you do, right? So you look at where you are going to and see what they are currently doing, and then you then see how you can contribute to that project.
Essentially, yeah. That's pretty much a short summary of it.
Okay, so if I'm coming into like okay, let me use myself as an example.
Hmm.
I want to, if I'm in a company or in a starting place within the industry and I'm looking towards joining that project or joining that group, and look at what they are doing and see how I can contribute to them,
Hmm.
right? So which means that I have to like set, like, how do I manage it with what I'm currently doing, right? Because that is where the goals now setting. Like, how do you now manage it? Because you have your own tasks, you know what you're currently doing, and but that is actually where you're going to. So how do you work towards that?
So the question is, how do you manage where you're? So the question, I guess, my question is like, when you say what you're currently doing, is it like you're currently doing something,
Yeah,
right? Computer work, and then you're seeing people doing stuff, right? I think it's just again prioritization. Like to, a lot of times, what you're doing currently, like what you're learning, isn't lost, right? You're working on
yeah,
a project, right? Like
hmm
some of these things have overlap, right? Okay, I want to work on a project, and I see people, where I want to be. They're also working on projects, but like in a way, they're looking into maybe random example, right? Let's say someone is, looking into how, to increase database efficiency or something,
hmm
and they are doing that across teams, right?
yeah,
I don't know, like some staff engineer is like, oh, hey, this team, database efficiency, whatever. Just example, right? Me as an IC, right? I'm also working on databases, right? I'm like, okay, interesting. What are these, people doing? Like, how are they increasing the efficiency? Like, how do they go about the process of saying, oh, okay, this team, like, do this thing, or just what's their process like? And that's something I could apply on my team, right? Or even if I don't apply it, like that's something I learned that will even make what I'm working on easier to work on, or make me think better about what I'm working on. So things like that. I wouldn't say knowledge is lost. Um, and usually in software engineering, to be honest, like a lot of things overlap. If I'm learning about, what someone is doing up there, like most likely it's gonna apply to what I'm currently working on.
yeah.
So except you're completely changing
Your
um
route.
roles. Huh?
Uh, Except you are changing your career path.
Exactly
Your
right.
That's
Yeah,
very
exactly. Yeah.
so, which
Except
means
you're
that okay, yeah. So sorry for cutting
no,
you
no,
there.
you're good.
So so this takes us to the next question.
Mhm.
How can software engineers transition into leadership or management roles? Because the truth is that the end goal, you cannot just continue. Of course, with years you become a senior software engineer, and after senior software engineering, so what else? So how do you transition? You think that is automatically, you know, how do you transition into you even into becoming a senior software engineer and going into leadership or managerial roles? How do you do that?
Yeah, sure. I think one thing you're talking to the wrong person because I'll explain what I mean. Right. A lot of times, like people want to, like I said earlier, right? Not everyone wants to become a manager, right? Because
Mm,
the thing in software engineering is that when you become a manager, right, a lot of times you're not even going to write code anymore, right? You're not going
mm-hmm.
to you're not going to write code anymore. You're not going to, even technical discussions. You're pretty much mostly excluded. It becomes like you're mostly working on, synergizing, you
Yeah.
know, corporate buzzwords, uh, which I don't know. Like it also depends on the company, to be honest. But a lot of times, managerial roles are completely different track
Different route.
from
Mm.
from like some companies have a track for managers. Like you go what IC3, IC4, IC5.
Oh,
No,
wow.
IC5, but IC5 is like the same thing as M0, M1 manager. So like you can choose your track from there, right? For me, I mean, if you I do know some things about becoming a manager, which I would say, number one is on the thing you're currently working on, right? Like, how are you taking leadership? And
Yeah.
this is not even just on the track to become a manager or something. Like, even becoming senior, more, taking on more senior roles, right? You're expected, maybe you still write code, but like you're expected to lead projects, right? You're not
Mm.
just writing code and doing grunt work, I guess, which is where it becomes similar to becoming a manager or something. But
Mm-hmm.
manager completely is like completely non-technical role. But like senior engineering, like you're expected to lead projects, right? It's not just
Yeah.
like writing. You still write less code, but not as little as managers. Uh, you currently what you're working on, how are you taking the lead, right? Like are you
Important.
doing? Hmm?
I said it's important. Are you currently taking the lead?
Exactly.
What
Are
on?
you? Yeah. Sometimes even on your team, like you can be the one leading a project as an IC, right? You can be the one. So how are you handling that, right? It's from there that people are like, okay, this person seems to be very responsible,
Mm-hmm.
and they know the ins and outs of what they do. And it's mostly, if there's no politics involved, it's mostly an organic, yeah, it's mostly an organic transition to managerial roles. They're just like, okay, my manager is getting promoted, or something, and then they're looking for someone to take the current managerial role.
The
Guess
current
what?
Nigeria.
Exactly, right? Or maybe you're even going to somewhere else, another team or something.
Mm-hmm.
And your manager recommends it. Oh, yeah, like this person, like they seem to be very good at leading projects, right? So always, wherever you are, like, how do you take the lead on projects you're working on? Like, are you just doing grunt work and writing code, or are you actively thinking, okay, like this thing, how does it benefit stakeholders? Things like that. Like, how can we make this thing better and things like that. It's not just, oh
Yeah.
yeah, give me this ticket and we just can work on it, right? Things like that. Set you up for becoming, for growing generally, and if you want to become a manager, that's also a good way to start, I'd say.
Mm. So, like the career path for managerial roles are quite different because I was probably thinking that, of course, you said, how are you taking the leadership in the software engineering space?
Hmm.
Of course, I understand that part. Like, from like how many years does it take you to become a senior software engineer, then becoming the next? So, what is the career track? What is the career track? What is the career path of a software engineer?
It depends on the
Let
company,
me.
to
Oh
be
wow.
honest. Like, but I'm going to use big tech as an example. Mostly, it looks like this. You start as IC3, which is E3, Engineer 3, whatever it's called these days.
Yeah.
Um, and then E4, which is like, so E3 is like entry level. You still, you're writing code mostly. E4, you're beginning to take ownership. E5, you really take ownership of projects. And in these roles, they're mostly like IC roles, which is like, you're writing code, you're not a manager, you don't have any team under you, right? You have managers, right?
Yeah.
Then IC is 5, I think, or 6 is where things split, right? So you can choose to become a manager, right? At that
Yeah.
point, or you can choose to continue on the IC track. So in terms of how many years it takes,
Mhm.
to be honest, it depends completely on you and on the company to an extent. When I say the company, because sometimes, right, like I know at some point Meta had a lot of middle managers, and it was difficult to get, a managerial role because there's a lot of managers, right? So if there's a lot of manager, yeah, what's this like button? Anyways, if this, that also affects your growth sometimes, right? Except maybe you transfer to another org that has less managers and they're looking for managers, right? Things like that. But in terms of how many years, it varies a lot. And sometimes, right, companies have terminal levels, right? They say, oh, maybe E5 is the terminal level. You can decide to stay there and not,
Mhm.
move, up the ladder or something. And maybe you still get pay bumps, I think, uh, once in a while. Um, but you can also decide that, okay, I want to move up the ladder, right? So in terms of yes, to be honest, I can't give you a specific number because even some people, like, they grow very fast, right?
Yeah.
E3 to E4, maybe 1 year, 1.5 year, E4 to E5, another maybe 2 years or something. In 3 years, they're already E5, or maybe 4 years. Let me not exaggerate. But yeah, before people say, hey, it's impossible. But yeah, people grow very fast. So a lot of times. also depends on the company. Some companies will never allow you to go E5 in 3 years, no matter what you do. So
Mm.
um, depends a lot. And again, sorry, back to your question, managerial roles. At E5, usually you decide on whether you want to become manager. In which case, you already, maybe be taking work off your manager's hands. Maybe you already, a alternate for your manager, kind of, if your manager is out, you're in charge of the team and things like that. And then gradually, organically you become manager if your manager gets promoted or they just want a new middle manager or something.
So we should be
Then,
praying for our manager then.
huh?
Get promoted, definitely. We should be praying for
I mean, yeah, most times you want to do that. But I mean, sometimes maybe there's a opening, even if your manager doesn't get promoted or something, like there might be an opening which you can take.
Mm.
But yeah, sometimes it can be as easy as your manager getting promoted.
Mhm.
Like,
Okay, so this brings me to the next question. So we are rounding up right now. This is 2:57. Thank you so much. So let's address this question and just briefly in. So what advice would you give a junior engineer? I know you've been talking about this and to part. I know you've been talking about this and but I have a question. So what advice would you give to junior engineers on how to prioritize their learning and growth early in their careers? So as a junior engineer, for example, what advice would you give, for somebody in that what advice would you give for that person to prioritize learning and growth in early careers? Is it project based or um is it project wise or is it I mean what should be the
yeah.
priority? What should that person prioritize?
Uh, yeah, I think this one is pretty straightforward. Let me not take your time. Um, I, work on high impact projects. That's
Hmm.
the way to grow, usually as a junior engineer. And most times companies will allow you to choose because you're a junior engineer. Like most times the senior engineers are doing some of the grunt work, right? They're like prioritizing and making sure projects are available. But your job is to actually work on the project, like you're writing code mostly. So you want to, choose projects that are interesting to you. You don't want to choose something that you're like, okay, yeah, this makes no sense, and then you're, struggling through it, and you're like, oh yeah, I hate myself. Right? You want to work on things that are interesting to you and are also high impact, right? So the more you work on those things, the more visible you are, right? And the more, more projects, more interesting projects come to you. Sometimes there's grunt work to do, you just have to deal with it. But like a lot of times,
Yeah.
there are cool things to work on and you want to prioritize those things, right? So yeah, projects definitely all the way. Projects, work on things, work on interesting stuff. Yeah,
Good.
that's how you grow.
So project and choose something interesting and of high impact.
Yeah,
So that high impact, I believe for real is very, very important. High impact projects because by the time you say you did something like this, of course, when there's another important project, they will not look elsewhere. They'll have to look at somebody that has experience
yeah,
in
pretty
that.
much.
Okay,
Yeah, and
and this is okay. Let's
now,
go.
I was just gonna add like technically challenging stuff too. Like you don't want to work on easy. I mean, yeah, dude, a lot of stuff we do is easy stuff, right? But like,
Yeah,
if you see technically challenging stuff, don't run away from it.
you're
Just,
running from
yeah,
it. I
stick to
agree.
them. Yeah,
I agree. Because it's actually going to push you. You are going to be learning the skills you need to learn. You are going to be, it's going to push you beyond your limits. Like it's going to make you to grow, like going for new skills, understanding, networking with the right people, because if you take on easy projects, you can't just going to be sit down and just work on it and just, relax and just but if you work on high impact project, it will push you towards networking with people that you need to reach out to, learning new skills in your place, developing your leadership skills, causing you to present your work, and so many things. So high impact project is going to bring out the best in you. I totally support and
yeah,
I totally agree. And it's resonating well with one of my experience in the past. So what strategies, this brings us to the last question. What strategies can software engineers use to stay relevant in AI-driven job market? Because now software engineering, good for good, but now AI is taking over. So what's going on? So what strategies can software engineers use to stay relevant in AI-driven job markets? So what's the strategy?
AI-driven job market, in the sense that like everyone is recruiting for AI roles.
Yeah,
Or
everybody's going for AI.
I mean, yeah, if you're interested in those kind of roles, then definitely, like, even if you're not interested, to an extent, I think it's good to learn like some of the concepts of, machine learning, artificial. It's mostly statistics, right?
Yeah.
You want to have some understanding. I was talking to someone recently, and was like, yeah, like it's good to know, like,
Mhm.
because also like learn how to use some of these tools, right? For me, I don't use AI a lot because I'm old-fashioned like that. But yeah, like sometimes it's useful to just, I
Mhm.
don't know, scour the internet and give you quick answers, even though the answers might be wrong. But at least you have an answer, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So, yeah, back to my this thing. Like, I would say, for me, generally, it's there's a balance between, oh, I want to find a role where I'm getting paid and I want to do something that's interesting to me, right? Like if AI is intersection of both for you, definitely go for it. If you're like, okay, I can do anything, and AI seems to be the bubbly, wonderful thing right now, I would say go for it because you can do anything. If you're like, oh, I absolutely hate AI, then find some role that is
Mhm.
still relevant, right? Like it's not something that AI is going to face out or something like that, right? Find some role that I don't know is interesting to you, but also isn't something that is drawn
So
to.
that's
I say, yeah.
okay. So I have a question for
Mm.
you. So the question I have now is that um, is there any intersection based on your experience now? Is there any intersection between software engineering and AI? Is there any intersection?
When you say intersection, like I mean, I think everyone is integrating AI into their products these days, right? You
Exactly.
see, even before the Nvidia rise,
Yeah.
you know, it's like few what 6 months to 1 year. Like a lot of companies use AI. You look at YouTube prioritization algorithm, no, not prior, yeah, recommendation algorithms, right? This where AI before AI started being before ChatGPT popularized AI, right? So a lot of products use AI, right? Especially when they're user-facing products, right? Recommendation, what else? I don't know, like just a lot of products is AI. So what ends up
Yeah.
happening in companies that
Prediction, recommendation. Yeah, I understand.
prediction, right? So a lot of companies, what they do is that they have like a AI division, right? That does all the mathematics, statistics, and everything, right? And then they have their own pipeline. So there's some engineering division. Sorry, some of the engineers in that division, they build the tools, they build the pipeline, funneling the data in, the training, um, what they write the training algorithms.
Mhm.
Okay, so AI researchers give them, okay, this is how these algorithms are supposed to work, and then like the software engineers, they implement those things, and then they run a pipeline that takes in the data, outputs whatever it is that they want to output. Maybe every 30 minutes or every 1 hour or
One
something,
hour.
they
Mm-hmm.
recommend things to people, right? So I guess that's the kind of intersection, like, and it's a plus in those areas if you know something about AI, right? Because you're in that place, you're like, okay, I understand what these AI researchers, ML researchers are
Yeah.
telling me, right? And then you're able to more easily build stuff for
Wow.
that department, I would say. Yeah. So yeah, intersection in lots of places, and there's no shortage of ways where AI goes into software engineering. Yeah.
Okay. So, wow, it has been a very long discussion. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
this. Before I release you, any final thoughts? Anything you want to give? Any final thoughts?
Yeah. Final thoughts. I guess just keep learning.
Hmm.
Understand what you're learning. I would say it's very important. Sometimes maybe you don't need to understand, but really most times you do need to understand what you're learning. So
Hmm.
please, yeah. And that's a whole other topic. But yeah, learn more, understand what you're learning, and talk to people, connect with people. Yeah.
So if you have an opportunity to like build a project on your resume, um, would you take that? Like for anybody, even in that space, for all these freelance jobs, would you like would you take such opportunity to develop your career, like to advance into any for a better, I don't know. Would you take any opportunity like that where you see freelance jobs that can help you to, apart from earning more money, that can also help you to develop, have more interesting projects? Let's say you want to move from one company to the next company. Sorry, I was just, this has to be your final thoughts, but
Yeah. Sure.
you want to move from one company to the next company, and you think that this kind of project is going to be good for me, would you take that opportunity?
When you take that, you mean like leave your job and
Not
go
leave,
take
like take it along, not leave your job.
Okay, that's trying to understand. I mean, yeah, for me, like, if I'm going to learn something new, I work on new projects. I work on projects every time.
Project.
So, yeah, if I mean, if you can actually, work the freelance opportunity, I don't see why not. As long as, it's not inhibiting, your actual work, right? Or,
Actually.
yeah, definitely work on projects. Always work on projects, actually. I mean, not always. If you have time, work on projects. You
All right. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you
Mm-hmm.
for joining this live session. We just right now we are ending this live session with Ibukun, so and he discussed his journey as a software engineer while addressing the main important topic, which is continuous learning and career growth in software engineering. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming.
sure.
Thank you for
Thanks
sharing.
for having me. Uh,
Yeah, thank you all.